Hello and welcome to Jim and Jay's Final Say, post-Man United video here on Palace Fan TV. I'm Jim Daly from the 5 Year Plan podcast and other stuff. And these are my thoughts on Palace losing 2-1 to Man United at the weekend. 4 defeats on the spin now, which isn't actually that great, but I think any other point in the season you might be starting to worry a little bit. But it's the end of the season. Palace are now mathematically safe. They actually became safe during the first half on Saturday thanks to results elsewhere because it was a late kickoff at Selhurst Park. And actually didn't play that badly at all. In fact, in the 4 games we played, 2 of them against West Brom and Hull, Palace weren't that great, but against Chelsea and United, ironically the bigger teams of that 4-game run, Palace played pretty well. And on Saturday, they gave Man United a game, certainly in the second half. First half was pretty dull. Not a lot happened. I spent more of the time on Twitter than I did actually watching the game. Neither side really sort of dominated, I would say. It was quite sort of sketchy, really. And then United got a penalty towards the end of the half, which was debatable. Scott Dan seemed pretty convinced it hit him here. On replay, it sort of hit him there, sort of both, and he's sort of leaning into it. But you could argue it as a natural kind of movement, and he's going to chest it and not obviously trying to handball it. Potentially a bit like the John Terry one last week at Chelsea, where Terry goes to block a ball and it hits his arm. Natural sort of arm movement, sort of thing you can't not do. Dan couldn't not put his arm like that when he was leaning, unless he didn't have any arms. And then it would be very difficult to be a footballer, I think. The problem with that is that that's fine if you're going to give handballs from that if you are even. And Palace then had a couple of penalty shouts. One actually for handball by Herrera, who sort of turns his body to block a ball and it hits his arm there. And you think, well, that's almost identical, really, to the Scott Dan one. It's a very similar idea, going to sort of block the ball and it hits your arm. So if the Scott Dan one's a penalty, then the Herrera one probably is a penalty as well. And Palace had another shout for a penalty for a foul on Jason Puncheon. At the time, it looked stonewall. On replay. Punch is sort of jumping into it, sort of looking for it, but there is contact, so is that a penalty? Again, I'd argue last week, Eden Hazard at Stamford Bridge, there was contact, but people said, it wasn't a dive, but he was kind of anticipating contact. That was a penalty, apparently. I would argue Punches is probably the same, but for some reason that isn't a penalty. Although the reason, I think, is because Palace aren't a top 4 team. Had that been, I think, United at Old Trafford against Palace, that probably would have been a penalty, which is frustrating that we have to kind of accept that you go into games already at a disadvantage because you're not a top 4 team, because referees in 51/49% decisions will favour the big team, and that is just kind of the way it goes, unfortunately. It's wrong, it's very wrong, but that seems to be where it's going. Although Michael Oliver had given himself a reputation as a referee that didn't do that, but unfortunately on Saturday did do that numerous times. He was fairly poor throughout. He let a lot of things go from Man United. Fellaini was very physical. The guy seemed to have about 10 elbows. They all seemed to find opposition players. There's a brilliant photo that I tweeted of Fellaini and Jedinak going for a header, and Fellaini's literally got his fingers in Jedinak's eyes, like when Mourinho did that when he was Real Madrid manager to the Barcelona assistant. I mean, very physical. Turns out Fellaini didn't even get booked on Saturday, so there you go. Definitely allowed to get away with some stuff by Michael Oliver. But despite that, Palace did have a very good second half. It was really Jason Puncheon that changed the game. He came on at half-time. And what he was doing that he didn't do the last few weeks was, it's fine, he's playing in that deep position, but instead of the last few weeks getting that and then playing a sort of quarterback role, just lofting balls into no one, this time he was getting the ball and driving at people, driving at the Man United midfield and defence, and they didn't like it. And it really caused problems. He was also sort of finding himself getting into those little sort of wide positions on the edge of the box, putting in some lovely crosses as well, Puncheon. He was really making it all happen, and then scored a fantastic free kick. It's certainly man of the match, I think, for Palace on Saturday. And proving that he can be a real game changer for Palace. Arguably maybe even player of the season. You think about the impact he's had in some of these games. He's a match winner. And I think he could be player of the season, potentially. Between him and Scott Dan, I think. Dan also had a good game and set up Murray for a chance, which Probably should have scored. It was a fantastic save from David De Gea, a real world-class save. But you probably should be scoring that from that far up. But that happens sometimes. Palace really turned the screw second half. They were very good. They were everything about the attacking side of Palace, and the way we've kind of progressed with our football that we've loved from this season, all in one 45-minute period, and they were brilliant. Couldn't get that second goal, unfortunately, and then got hit on the break really against the run of play. Man United scored. It looked like a mistake from Jules, and it probably still is a little bit, but on replay it's definitely a push from Falcao on Delaney, who then crashes into Jules. So really it's a free kick for Palace. But yet again, we talked about these slim decisions earlier. You just don't get them if you're a lower league team against a big team. And again, Fellaini was allowed to be physical all game, and really it's decided the game there with a push on Delaney. Again, Jules maybe should have done better, but we're talking about probably anywhere else on the pitch that would be a foul, or against any other player that wasn't a goalkeeper. Maybe it's a foul, I don't know. Certainly the ball came in from wide from Young. He had the better of Joel Ward all game. I'd say Wardy had a fairly poor game and struggled against Ashley Young. Really, that's the only sort of blot on the Palace performance I can think of. Everyone else sort of did all right, I think. Soiree at left back, I thought had a good game, and is growing in confidence and looking more and more competent left back, each game. So there you go. That's kind of what it was. Maybe a bit frustrating, but after the game, we're all at the pub, Palace fans, and no one seemed that bothered because we played well. We tried to play some good stuff, and that's all that matters really. And we're safe. So there you go. Only a few more of these videos left. 2 more games of the season. So hope you've been enjoying them. Like below if you have been, and comment with your thoughts on the Palace game. Let us know what you thought of the game. Let us know what you think of these videos. If you like them and you want us to do them next season as well, then let us know. And subscribe so you can get these weekly in your inbox. And we're doing other videos as well on Palace Fan TV. We've got a lot of plans for next season, so worth subscribing for that. Here's Jay from the Eagles Beak with his thoughts on the game, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.
Hey guys, welcome back to Palace Fan TV. This is Jim and Jay's final say, and we're picking up on the United game. You've already heard Jim talking. It's my turn to share my views on what happened at Selhurst Park yesterday. Another defeat, 4th defeat in a row. I think I alluded to this to those of you that follow me on Twitter. 4 defeats in a row at this stage of the season would be disastrous, but it's not so. There's not the usual questions being asked at this stage of the season, because we've done our hard work earlier in the season and got ourselves into a position where we're relatively comfortable with just a few handful of games to go. These are the 4 games that many people, including myself, feared when the fixtures came out ahead of the season. We really hoped that we would have points in the bag by the time we got here, and that's certainly the case. I mean, I think teams like Norwich last season had a horrendous last 4 games, perhaps worse than our last 4. But I think what contributed to going into these 4 games were the home defeats to Hull and West Brom, which we weren't expecting. But onto the game, I thought we fared pretty well actually. I think we carried on where we left off against Chelsea the week before. I think there was a lot of positives from that game, and I would say the same about yesterday as well. United had a lot of possession in the game. Jednak came in back into the starting lineup, which was really to combat the threat of Fellaini, because Ledley and MacArthur would have been overrun by height by the big Belgian. And I think Jednak did well actually. I think it's probably his best performance for a few games now. He battled well against Fellaini. It was a tough old battle between two large characters, and I think he did pretty well. In terms of the game, it started with a lot of possession for United, but we played our way back into the game. Started having a go at them, in fact, and their back line is notoriously dodgy, and on more than one occasion we opened them up at the back, which was pleasing to see. The sucker punch was that we started to get back in the game and they were given a penalty. It looked quite dubious from where I was in the grounds. It looked like it was Dan's shoulder, but I think the pitch contributed. I mean, we've had the pitch laid twice this season. It is better than it was now, but Joel Ward slipped, allowing Ashley Young to come in, cross the ball, and Dan come across, and it looked like it's top of his shoulder to me. But the replays show why it was given, perhaps. And you would argue that if it was at the other end, we would be claiming for a penalty as well. So, but to me, it looked very much like Michael Oliver wasn't going to give it first of all until the United players questioned it and asked for the penalty. And that happened a few times yesterday. A few fouls were given when United players stopped and asked a question. I'm not going to go down the route of that big club, little club mentality, because I don't consider us a little club anymore. We're a Premier League side, pushing for mid-table finish. So I don't buy all that. Although I do think that the referees seem to chat more with with the big club teams. Maybe they're on first name terms. I don't know. But we had a few chances in the game. We had a few claims for a penalty. Palace notoriously, we don't surround the referee as much as other clubs do. We did for the penalty yesterday, because I think it was a bit of a dubious one. It wasn't clear cut, but these things happen. But the reaction was a big thing for me. We reacted well. Wilf, against his former club, had a lot of joy down out wide. In the first half, he was particularly good. Second half, he faded a little bit, which ended in him being substituted. But I think the instrumental part of the game was Puncheon coming on for Ledley at half time. Clearly a tactical change. And Puncheon changed the game for us in a way. He gave us a lot more possession. His holding of the ball and his talent on the ball, particularly. I mean, taking it round players when he picks it up from the back line. He gave us that bit of connection between the back line and the midfield, and obviously up front as well. And the free kick that was given, fantastic free kick from Puncheon again. I mean, he is our set piece taker. Luckily, we didn't particularly have a set piece in the first half, and he was on the pitch for that one, which was great. And he put it with a slight deflection, which perhaps beat De Gea, who, De Gea, again, fantastic in goal. I mean, he had a couple of great saves from Murray, who kind of thought Murray was about to put it in the back of the net, but you can't. It's difficult. As a top keeper, and I actually nominated De Gea earlier in the season as the top keeper in the Premier League. I think he proved that a lot yesterday in some of the saves he made. And this is a goalkeeper that gives United points with his saves. He wins games for them, and that's the position he put them in yesterday. But back to Puncheon's free kick, great free kick, put us back in the game. His celebration was even better. And we won all, and we had a go at United from that point. They were rocking. They were on the back foot. We attacked, and Balassi came into his own in the second half. I just questioned his final ball sometimes. Maybe he needs to look up a little bit more. That's not being critical, because he picked up the ball on a number of occasions yesterday and ran for it and attacked the back line, which was great to see. Like I mentioned, Zaha faded a little bit in the second half. But we had our chances. We had our chances to take a lead, and the sucker punch was the goal from Fellaini with about 10 minutes to go. It was one of those. I mean, for me, when you look at the replay, I didn't see it at the game because I was the other end of the pitch. But if you see the replay, you'd see Falcao pushing Delaney into Speroni, which took them both out of the play. For me, that should have been a free kick. I didn't see it at the game at the time. Referee should really be picking it up. Falcao put both hands on Delaney. And that's how they both clash. But if you cross a ball into the box to the far post and Fellaini's there, it's unlikely that you're going to have somebody on it. And he was Jedinak's man. He wasn't quite with him. You could start pointing fingers, but I still think that free kick should have been given, and the goal shouldn't have stood. But I think we performed admirably yesterday. We battled well against a team who were fighting for the top 4 position. Going into the game, we were effectively safe. I know a lot of fans were talking about us being dragged into the relegation mire, but I was pretty confident with the fact that a lot of the other teams below us are playing each other between now and between yesterday and the end of the season. So while some of the results were going the bottom club's way yesterday, I wasn't particularly concerned. So as I say, there's a lot of positives to take from the game yesterday, and going into the last 2 games, we could do with a result from one of the last 2 games just to see us on our way into the summer. Just so as we don't go into the summer on a bit of a sour note and a run of defeats. It's 4 now, but I think the last 2 against 2 of the top 4 sides in the Premier League, I think we can hold our heads up high. A lot of positives, as I say, and we look forward to a trip to Liverpool next week, which another top side, but it's away from home. I think, as I mentioned so many times before, away from home is something that we seem to be better at. Attacking teams on the break. So and Liverpool, we do seem to upset Liverpool a few times. So maybe we can do it just one more time before Gerrard retires. Let's see how that goes. Thanks for watching the videos. Please subscribe, leave your comments as ever. We're hoping to carry these on for next season for sure, but only if the only if the likes and the comments are there. So leave your comments both on Twitter, Facebook. Subscribe to Palace Fan TV, and we'll catch you again next week to talk about Liverpool. Win away, hopefully. We'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching. Bye.